Welcome into our NFL Pick Show for the Conference Championship round. My name is Spencer. He's Jason. We are both of PoolGenius.com, the only site dedicated to helping you win more sports pools. In this episode, we're going to take a side against the spread in both conference championship games. Then we're going to run through our favorite props from those games and finish with an anytime touchdown prop. That's kind of a long shot, but it makes a lot of sense. Jason, you told me before we went on air here about this play, and I absolutely love it. I can't wait till we get to that. But before we run through all those picks, how are you feeling about these final four teams that are left here in the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, on the NFC side, it is who we pretty much thought were the cream of the crop. Gosh, since midseason. I think by that point, it would look like Seattle or the Rams who would get the 1 seed. Seattle won that big game late in the year and did so. The Rams survived 2 road trips. Seattle, of course, had the bye, but then dominated San Francisco. So on that side, it's not that surprising of who's here. On the AFC side, we got the top 2 seeds, but they look very different, and it was a case where I think things fell for both of these teams at various points, but now Denver doesn't have their quarterback, and so this is really swung things. New England could have one of the most fortuitous routes to a Super Bowl that we've ever seen, honestly, with their regular season schedule and now catching Denver, who just lost their quarterback, having to play them on the road.
Yeah, and I also want to point out for those of you listening and looking for our NFL Survivor advice, we are currently going through and taking questions, giving out advice in our Discord. I will pin that in the comment section and the description here below. And also you can check out our article where we cover all the scenarios of who you should be picking and strategy for NFL Survivor based on who you've already chosen up to this point. We have an article on that. Jason writes it, has been doing it every week for the NFL playoffs. I will also pin that down below and you can check that out. So with that, let's get to these picks. Let's start with the game picks against the spread. The first one, the NFC Championship game, Jason, between Seattle and the Rams. Seattle favored by less than a field goal here. We have 2.5 on Seattle. Are you taking them or are you going with the Rams?
I am taking Seattle, and maybe I'm just going with the public sentiment. I'm surprised this number is under a field goal, honestly. For the full season, I would have this number a little over a field goal for the full season. But over the last half, I think Seattle's separated a little more from the Rams. I know the market has had the Rams number 1, but honestly, I think Seattle's been the better team on average over the second half of the season. They're at home. And I think that I like Seattle here with that defense. I mean, the Rams defense has not been quite as good down the stretch as they were early in the year. I think there are more question marks there. Obviously, the Rams can score. They can go on the road and score. But I like Seattle here. Our models like Seattle. Our models over 55% on Seattle the first time for this playoffs. And, you know, it's had a winning, when it's rated to pick over 55%, it's got a winning record 4-3 this year. It's been over 55% each of the last 3, closer to 60 over the last 3. I like Seattle. My similar games analysis before the playoffs, similar teams. Seattle was one of the best teams I've ever seen pop. They're really good in all phases, and they were not relying on turnovers, which is kind of one of those things. Like, they actually fit the mold of a lot of teams that have won Super Bowls in terms of, I know people are like, Darnold can't do it, but like, if you just look at like their profile, this is a potentially dominant team, and I like getting them under a field goal in this situation.
Yeah, especially at home. You like that pick. I like that pick. Our model likes that pick. I'm seeing, the public likes that pick, which is a little bit unsettling. And I know it's unsettling for you because you are very much a guy who likes to go against the grain usually with these picks. But I do believe Seattle is the right side when you're getting that 2.5. And I believe the public's on them in some measure because the spread is below a field goal. We've
Yeah.
put that analysis out there that the public likes to gravitate to certain numbers, and 2.5 is one of those. So
For sure. And I think we should say in picks pools versus like just betting it, you're going to want to play to your standings with only 3 games left. I mean, if you are in the lead, yeah, you lean into Seattle. They're the more popular side. You're getting a good number at 2.5. But if you are trying to catch somebody, you probably need to take the Rams and take the 2.5, the plus 2.5, eat that number. Even if you thought, oh, the Rams are only, it's not a 50-50 call at the spread. Our models are right. Maybe it's 45%. Well, you need to take that 45% at an unpopular number if you're trailing by a win or 2 and you only have 3 games left. I mean, you probably got to make your stand, and you got to, it's the equivalent of picking an upset in a regular game winner. I mean, you've got to do it, I think, to give yourself the chance to win the pool. There is no prize. I mean, look at your prize structure. There is no prize for looking good and getting wins but not getting into the money. So whatever it takes, you got to play to it in your pool.
yeah, absolutely. And let's get over to the AFC Championship game between Denver and the New England Patriots here. I'm going to pick this one. I am going the Denver Broncos plus 5.5. And like, we had the look ahead lines for this before we knew Bo Nix was injured. It was about 2.5, 3 with Denver favored, I believe. Now we're all the way at 5.5. Is Bo Nix to Stidham worth 7.5, 8 points? I don't know. I mean, according to the market, it is. But we can't lose sight that Denver is at home. They're a very solid team with a good offensive line and a good play caller that can scheme around a backup quarterback getting in there. So I think that they can keep it close. I think New England, the past 2 games, you can't deny them. They've taken care of business the past 2 games, but they've also feasted on offensive lines that could not stand up to them. I don't think that's going to be the case here. They have to go on the road. Drake May's going to have to show out. Like, he's been good in the playoffs, good enough, and they haven't really needed to rely on him. I think Denver can just muck this up, keep it close, long, sustained drives, stay in it at the very least, and I love catching the points here at home.
I'm surprised by the size of this number as well. I'm Stidham. He hasn't played that much in the NFL in the regular season. I think he has 4 starts. But he hasn't been terrible by any means. Like, he looks like he's 28 years old. He looks like a competent backup that can get the ball to playmakers if he has them. He's averaged 7.2 yards per attempt, which is solid. He has thrown some interceptions. I think that's the bigger risk, right? We saw CJ Stroud really struggle last week throwing a bunch. That's where the game gets away from Denver. But I think Stidham can make some plays and get the ball to. I mean, Denver has a diverse group of playmakers. Maybe they're not household names entirely besides Sutton. But I mean, they've got some speed guys. They've got guys they can scheme, like you said, Sean Payton. So I think they've got a good receiving back we'll get to here. I think they can make plays for Stidham. I think it's the question of will he turn the ball over in key moments or not. But I expect him to not be terrible in this game.
Yeah, and that kind of segues perfectly into our first favorite player prop. We got 3 of them here. And you are going with one of those playmakers you were mentioning in this Denver New England game. Who is it, Jason?
Yeah, I like RJ Harvey's receiving numbers in this game. Now, haven't been able to find receptions yet. They're holding out on us. The only guys they've had in some places, you might check your books because some books haven't even released a receiving number on them. We've got some at BetMGM and some others, but like FanDuel and DraftKings haven't put it out yet. But it's generally around 19.5 for his receiving yards. That would be almost in line with his season average, but Harvey profiles as a good all-purpose back, as a receiver, somebody can make plays. New England is near the top of the league in receptions allowed to backs. They don't always give up big plays, but they will give up the underneath pass. And so I think Harvey's going to be a big part of this game plan as a receiver. We saw he wasn't, they didn't run the ball that much against the Bills, but they did use him. He's been used as a receiver a fair amount down the stretch. I think he would have covered this number in 6 of his last 8 after not covering it most of his early games when J.K. Dobbins was there. But he's a rookie. He's seen his role expand. And I think he's the better receiver between him and McLaughlin, and I think he's going to play a role. So I like that. I wouldn't mind laddering it. I mean, I think some extreme outcomes are also in play here, like where he just becomes part of what Stidham is looking to, and that's what's open against this Patriots defense early.
Yeah, and so that is R.J. Harvey over 18.5 yards is what we're seeing, receiving yards there. I just looked it back up across all the books to see if that number magically popped up for his receptions. It is not. We are recording this as of Thursday morning, so double check that. If that number does come up, what are you looking at there? Would you rather take receptions than receiving yards, or just like, is there a way that you would play it that you can kind of give the listeners a little bit of a strategy of what you're looking
as like a base number? I'd probably rather play receptions, just because I do think he's going to be part of the game plan, whether he breaks anything or they're quick check downs that don't gain much. I think that's in play as like kind of, I would play yards and like maybe more like I said, ladders or some alt lines, because I think it's in play that he does get some big plays. But I think 5 reception, 4.5 to 5 is where I would look at. If it's at 4.5, I definitely would like 5 and up.
That's a big number for a running back. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, no,
So
it is.
it's gonna be very interesting to see where this number is set. Like, I mean, that's probably one of the reasons why it's not up, because the books just really don't know how the public's gonna bet this, and they're worried that guys like you are gonna come in and just hammer the over.
Yeah, I'll pull up what New England has done with running backs, and I think he's most likely to be. New England has allowed, during the regular season, 84 receptions, 2 running backs. That is tied for 5th most. So what does that work out to? Like 5 a game to running backs? And just like a base, and they haven't played, like, it's not like they played a ton of great receiving backs and great offenses. So I like anywhere around that number for Harvey, because I think he's a better version of probably what they faced in some receiving backs.
Yeah, and with that, let's get to our second favorite player prop. I'm going to take this one from the NFC Championship game. It's another running back. It's another over. It is Rams running back Kyren Williams over 11.5 receiving yards. And I really like this one for a couple of reasons here. First off, Kyren has hit this 12 plus receiving yards. Pretty low line there. He's hit this in 5 straight, averaging 24 receiving yards per game over that span. The Seattle Seahawks have allowed the 6th most yards this season to running backs, receiving yards, that is, and the most targets and the most receptions to opposing running backs this year. So we already said that we kind of lean and like Seattle to win this game. So that brings up a little bit of a game flow angle as well, that the Rams could be in this as a tight back and forth game, or from the trailing position, throwing the ball a little more. We know Kyren Williams, great athlete, great receiver. Sean McVay likes to scheme that up every now and then. So I think at a line that's 11.5 receiving yards, I'm taking this as probably my favorite overall pick of the week. Kyren Williams over 11.5 receiving yards.
I like that. I mean, we know these teams in these crunch time games, he's going to be facing pressure. Stafford is going to be looking at that. That is what Seattle's defense allows in some parts. So I do like that as well. And so, do we want to get to some TD props or discussion on that, or
let's get to it. I don't know if you're ready to unveil your long shot, or do you have any thoughts on anytime TD props? Because when you're only looking at 2 games here, it's a little bit of a different strategy than like a full slate where every team's playing in the regular season and you're kind of cherry picking great spots. So how do you look at that board right now?
Yeah, I mean, I took a look back at conference championship games. I've done this for our Super Bowl previews. I think what you find in these do or die games late, where you're down to just a few teams and they're generally pretty good teams. Most of the teams that get to this point are good at taking away certain things and forcing actions. And we also see like unexpected or long tail events hit. So my general thought is I would play like longer shot or extreme outcome type events like multiple TDs or a longer shot. In these cases versus like a regular season where you're just like, oh, this team has a terrible rush defense, take the chalk against them, pound it. And so I would look at like some longer shots. Like here's some examples. I went back through 2010. So 15 years, 30 championship games, 60 teams. Obviously a winner and loser on each side of those 30 games. The RB1 on the winning team in the conference championship game is scored 67% of the time, which tells you what the number is, if you think that team's probably going to win. But it's been 30% if they lose. So the RB1 is obviously dependent on game flow and whether the team's winning and whether they put up enough points to win. And so that kind of gives you that middle and to think about that. Quarterbacks have scored a decent amount, over 30% on winning championship teams. Quarterbacks will run a little more in the championship game. Even some pocket passers have scored in key moments in these. So I would look at like some alternates there at some long shots to pair with a winning team. They haven't scored on losing teams. Interestingly, only one quarterback, Tom Brady, in one of his many championship games, is the only one that had a rushing TD in the last 15 years on a losing team in a championship game. So those are some things to look at. RB2s can pop up. And so I would look at them as well. And that leads me to my pick this week because I'm kind of surprised at this number. Zach Charbonnet tore his ACL last week. Charbonnet was the goal line back for Seattle throughout most of the year. And we saw when he left, Kenneth Walker obviously took that opportunity and scored multiple times last week as basically the lead back now in Seattle's offense. And he's got a pretty short price for TDs. I think it's minus 150 or more to score. Even his 2 TD number is pretty low for a 2 TD number.
Yeah, plus 360 on that,
yeah.
which is it's lower than I expected.
I like Velus Jones, who, as it turns out, came in and had 6 carries. Now, he didn't do much with them last week, but once Charbonnet was out, Velus was the one spelling Walker. He's a failed wide receiver draft pick, if you remember, by the Bears. Kind of has some commonalities with Cordero Patterson style-wise, who we saw was converted to a running back at about the same age in his career and was kind of a surprise breakout late career type guy changing positions. Velus got 6 carries. I mean, if you think Seattle's going to win, then there's a decent chance that the RB2 for Seattle scores. It happens. It's like 30% in these games that if the winning team that a second back will score, or maybe the second back and scores instead of the first back. It happens quite a bit on just rotations at the goal line. Also play designs, like getting like short passes out to the flat on a trick play, things like that. So getting Velus Jones, who's going to probably get some snaps as that backup to Kenneth Walker. I mean, I'm looking down the list. Here's who he's priced with right now. Plus 2200. He's got the same price as Ronnie Rivers of the Rams. Actually longer price than Ronnie Rivers of the Rams to score. And Jarquez Hunter of the Rams. 2 guys that are buried behind Blake Corum and Kyron Williams on the underdog. Who basically, who knows who's active, but they need an injury, right? Velus doesn't need an injury. He needs Kenneth Walker to get taken out because he had a long run and he's winded or something like that. So I like Velus plus 2,200. It's at DraftKings. I don't know who else has that number, but if that's over 2,000 for a guy who's going to see the field and is the next man up on the favorite to go to the Super Bowl, I like it. I know he only has like 10 carries for the year, and he's a converted wide receiver, but I think that's what's leading into this price. I mean, you see guys like this score all the time in these winner take all conference championship and Super Bowl games.
Yeah, so I'm trying to look through this, looking through the odds and everything. It looks like George Holani is
Who's tight end fullback, yeah, H back type for them can
yeah,
also he's also in play for a similar
yeah,
type name,
he's in play. He's at plus 850.
which is
And he's
probably where
just
Vila
getting
should be.
yeah, he's getting called up from the IR to potentially be in that mix for depth there at running back. So I don't know, like, it's hard to say how Seattle's going to treat this situation. If you think they're 2A and 2B with Velas Jones and George Holani, obviously take the longer odds there with Velas Jones at plus 2,200 versus plus 850. Um, so that's it. It's so interesting how they have them priced like it's a certainty that Holani's going to be in the mix and Velas isn't likely to. But I think lean into that uncertainty with a
I mean,
longer
we saw
price
what
for
they
sure.
did when they had the injury. Vilas went in, had some carries, and now he gets a week to practice. I would be stunned if that's not how it goes, but we'll see.
Yeah, definitely. I also looked this up because as you were saying it with the winning teams in these championship games, the running backs usually score. So I'm gonna run this past you. Kenneth Walker, he is minus 155 at an anytime touchdown score. If you do that on DraftKings plus two leg parlay with Seattle minus 2.5, you get plus 162. Seattle minus 2.5 and Kenneth Walker minus 155 on the touchdown. Do you like that, or is that too short of odds for you for those two outcomes to hit?
I would probably rather play Walker through that kind of like multiple parlay, like win and score versus just win at like a minus 155 number. I mean, because they're highly correlated in these. Like if he has a really good game and is scoring, Seattle's probably winning. And so I'm surprised it's on the correlated parlay. It's that number, honestly.
Well, I'm trying to look this up and I'm trying to do some math here on the fly with to see what the odds should be. It says the odds, if you just take that minus 110, minus 155, it should be plus 214. So you're hitting a correlation penalty there a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And of course, I did this on DraftKings. So a site like DraftKings is gonna bake that into the VIG. So I would, if you were gonna play something like that, I would try to shop around and see if you can get something better than plus 162. It definitely makes sense in terms of correlation and schematics and everything that you said, the history of what happens in these
I mean,
championship
I would
games.
consider Walker's 2 TD number, which they've moved down. I think it's under 400. Isn't that what you
Yeah,
said? What's
I
worth?
see 360.
Which is getting pretty tight, but I do think that's probably close to fair but if he scores 2, they're winning. So what is the difference? Like that number, I would probably just like tie it together because if you got a back, I mean, I think there's been like less than 10% of games where the opposing back on the losing team has scored multiple. It does happen. They're probably more of a receiver if that happens because they probably score through the air in addition to on the ground. But yeah, I would look at that. But yeah, Velas Jones, the 2,200 number right now does not make sense to me in what his potential role could be. Like the fact that you're getting this, and it's a extreme long shot. It may not happen. You need certain things to happen. You need Walker to come out at the goal line, or you need him to bust a play, or him to be in on a third down because they're spelling Walker in the red zone, things like that. But I think he's at least got a path to it.
Yeah, for sure. And there you have it. Those are our 5 favorite picks and props. 2 game picks, both one from each game here, 2 props, and then a long shot anytime touchdown prop there. What we have going. And once again, I want to remind you that if you're looking for our NFL Survivor breakdown, we have that in Discord and also an article covering the strategy elements of that. If you enjoyed this video and what we do here every week, please consider subscribing and liking this video. It keeps us going, lets us know you're interested in this type of content, and we greatly appreciate it as well. So with that, good luck in your NFL championship picks.